Week 4 fantasy hockey is over, and there have been a lot of changes that I'll be breaking down for you in this video. The big noted one will be the Connor McDavid injury. Unfortunately, he will be out for 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll break that down in this video and who the benefactors are. You guys seem to really like this content, so I'm going to continue to produce it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if you watch the intro, I'm going to be starting off with the first injury of the week. The big noted one here is going to be the Connor McDavid ankle injury. Unfortunately, he will be out for 2 to 3 weeks. There's not really a major benefactor because the lineup did get shuffled quite a bit with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins now taking over McDavid's spot on line 1 beside Zach Hyman. And we do see a pretty significant bump to Victor Arvidsson, who did play the second most 5-on-5 minutes and skated about 17 minutes at 5-on-5 with Leon Draisaitl. I think whoever is going to be on the wing with Draisaitl will be the biggest benefactor. And then there's not really a major update in terms of the forwards getting moved to the top power play unit. It looks like it will be Mattias Ekholm in the short term, taking over McDavid's spot in the top power play unit. I expect some regression on this power play because we know how dominant McDavid is, especially with the man advantage. So for right now, it looks like it is going to be Mattias Ekholm with the biggest bump from the McDavid injury. Matthew Barzal, another big name center that is going to be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury. Their power play is a complete mess. Their lineup's very, very messy. And with the injury to Duclair, and now there's an injury to Adam Pelech, the Islanders are they're going to be struggling for the next little bit. So I think right now, no real bump, but something to keep in mind with Barzal. Definitely a guy you want to be stashing on your IR in the short term. Artturi Lehkonen, if you drafted him and stashed him, or if he's available in your leagues, this is definitely the perfect time to either A, reactivate him, or B, add him back into your lineup. So he was injured to start the season with a shoulder injury. It looks like he has been activated as of the 3rd of November and will return Tuesday night to the lineup. It looks like right now he is going to be skated on line 2 and back on the top power play unit, which is a big bump for Lehkonen, where he's had a lot of success with the man advantage, but I will get into that a little bit later. Philip Broberg here was a pretty big blow to the blue line of the St. Louis Blues. Looks like he suffered a lower body injury after getting tangled up with Mitch Marner. I didn't watch the game. I just read some of the news on it. It looks like there is some concern right now that he is going to miss an extended period of time. I'm sure a decent amount of you added him after he was off to a pretty hot start, playing pretty good minutes for the St. Louis Blues, who have some holes on their back end. But this injury is a big blow to that blue line, and if you've rostered him and you don't have space on your IR, I'm completely fine with you dropping him. If not, just stash him on your IR for now. Lastly, on the injury reserve here, we have Sam Ersson. I was watching the game, and he took a shot from Marchand, lost his blade, and then went to the dressing room like 2 or 3 shifts later. I didn't really see what happened. I was watching the game, but I think right now with Ersson, he's probably going to be a drop or a stash if available. And I would caution heavily picking up these Philadelphia Flyers backup goalies. There's a lot of concern with those goalies. They're not really NHL caliber right now. Ersson was really the only NHL caliber goaltender on the team. So I wouldn't look to replace your Philadelphia goalie and Sam Ersson with another Philly goalie. I would likely look elsewhere on your free agency at this point. Moving on to the second set of injuries, we have Jakob Chychrun of the Washington Capitals. It looks like he is going to be out with an upper body injury. They did say it is going to be for at least the next 2 games. He was placed on the IR, and I would say assume safely that he will be out for at least this week. I don't think there's any real significant bump. Maybe we see Sandin move up to the top, the second power play unit. We know John Carlson has a full control over the top unit and the pair 1 spot. So I think right now with Sandin, maybe we see him get a little bit of a bump up to 21 plus minutes per night. I would say he's only really rosterable in 14 plus team leagues, but definitely something you want to be keeping an eye on. With Macklin Celebrini here, it looks like he is still going to be out with a lower body injury, but there is some positive news that he did skate this week, but it's still considered week to week. So if you're still stashing him on your IR, I would definitely continue to do so, as the last year's first overall pick will likely look to get back into lineups maybe mid to late November. Frederik Andersen, if you guys watched my must draft goalie videos, I said about with Freddie Andersen, it's not if he'll get injured, it's when he'll get injured. And within the first 3 weeks of hockey, looks like Freddie Andersen is injured and is considered week to week. And I guess when talking about the must-draft goalies and what I talked about with Kochetkov, if you draft both of them, at least you have a little bit of a safety net to have Kochetkov as the backup if Freddie gets hurt. With Kochetkov here, I think he becomes easily a top 7 to 10 goalie given how good Carolina is. Now, I know some people have noticed some concerns with Carolina that they just don't give up a lot of volume as a team, and that does hurt the goaltending, especially if they make allow 2 goals on 20 shots. You only have a 900 save percentage, so just something to keep in mind there with Carolina. But I think Kochetkov becomes a priority goaltender if you have the opportunity to trade for him, because his numbers aren't too glaring to start the season. And if you drafted him and you've been holding him, good job. He should be performing fairly well for you over the next little bit. Now, Ross Colton, this has been like an on and off, and I feel like when I make these videos, like I'll talk about how someone is day to day, then he'll be in the lineup, then he'll get injured. Ross Colton's a perfect example of this. I pretty much gave like 4 different updates about him, but it looks like he has an upper body injury and is expected to miss some time, which tells me maybe 3 to 4 weeks. They haven't really given a full timeline, and when they do, I'll definitely be letting you guys know. But right now, this Colton injury, he was extremely good to start the season. In one of my leagues, he was actually rank 1, which is crazy to think about from a waiver wire ad. I was doing my best to try and move him, and then he got injured, and I really have no leverage at this point. So for Ross Colton, definitely a guy you want to just be stashing on your IR, because he was really, really good when healthy. And I know this team is going to start getting a little bit more healthy over the next couple of weeks. But it'll be interesting to see if you do hold Colton, where he'll end up in the lineup, whether he'll be line 1, line 2, power play 1, power play 2. But I think for right now, he's definitely worth a hold on your team. So let's jump into some of the lines and the power play line updates. So in the last one, I gave an update about the Islanders power play. It looks like they've changed things up a little bit, especially with the injury to Matt Barzal. So power play 1 right now is going to be Anders Lee, Bo Horvat, Noah Dobson, Oliver Wahlstrom, and JG Pageau. I think Lee's really the only major benefactor here. I really have no interest in Wahlstrom or Pageau. They're more depth players in the lineup. With Lee here, though, one of the best shot rates in the NHL right now. So something you definitely want to keep in mind if you're looking for a left winger. I do have some interest in Lee on the top power play unit. Now, I was really hoping, and I just don't understand. Maybe if we have some Islanders fans, let me know what you're seeing from Brock Nelson. He just scored his 5th goal as I'm recording this. But he's like a 35 goal scorer, like consistently in the last couple of seasons. And it's crazy to me that they have him on the second power play unit, where this is usually where teams score a few goals per game or 1 goal per game and produce a lot of offense. And it just blows my mind they don't have like one of their best offensive players there. And then they also have Palmieri, Holmstrom, and Pulak, so they're all there. And power play 1's really my main interest with Anders Lee there. So as I mentioned, with the injury to Connor McDavid, it looks like Matthias Ekholm has moved up to the top power play unit with McDavid out. Kind of a surprise for me that they're running 2 defensemen on the top power play unit, but we'll see how things shape out this week. It's going to be something you want to be closely monitoring, though, because if we do see like Victor Arvidsson get moved up to the top unit, Jeff Skinner, they're going to have a really significant bump, because we know this Oilers power play is good. We haven't seen much over the last couple of seasons without McDavid, but I still think any player moved up to that top unit will have some interest from me. With Charlie Coyle here, so in my last must-add video, I talked about my interest in Pavel Zacha, but it looks like as of the last game against the Flyers, it was Coyle back on the top power play unit. He was a pretty good like depth forward in fantasy last year. The only issue is he's just center eligible, so I think in like the 14-team leagues, you can look to add Coyle on a short-term basis. He is on the second line and the top power play unit, so definitely have some interest from Coyle there, who has been a pretty consistent like 45, 50-plus point player in his career and over the last couple of seasons with the Bruins. So we've been really trying to figure out this Maple Leafs power play, and if you watch the last Everything Has Changed video, I basically predicted what the power play 1 would be, and I was almost right on except for Pacioretty, and now things have changed once again. The Leafs have been one of the worst power plays in the league, so they're desperately trying to find kind of that hot spot of where they were last year. It looks like Riley has moved back onto the top power play unit. So for those who traded him away, maybe not the smartest decision, but those who held him, you're going to be benefiting here quite a bit, with Riley earning his spot back on the top unit. And I think at this point with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I own him in a few leagues, and I definitely think he's worth dropping at this point. I had a lot of interest when he was on the top unit, but with him down to power play 2, pair 2, playing like 20 minutes, I don't have a whole lot of interest. I would rather roster someone that either A, is on the top power play unit, or B, has very strong peripherals and the hits and blocks that can help contribute to some of my lacking categories. So as I mentioned with Artturi Lehkonen, it looks like he is going to be skating on the second line, potentially the first line. We'll see how things shape out. I don't know if Joel Kiviranto's spot on the top line is going to be there permanently, and that's kind of why I didn't add him in this video. But it looks like Lehkonen will retain his spot back on the top power play unit, and he has been very strong on the Colorado Avalanche power play unit. Bednar also likes him quite a bit. I remember listening to an interview about McDavid, or about McKinnon, saying he would have traded multiple firsts for how good Lehkonen is on that team. So it looks like he has high praise. Looks like they like him a lot, and they are desperate for some top 6 forwards, and they're desperate for some offensive spark. And it looks like Lehkonen will likely be that guy. So definitely a guy you want to be adding in right now if you're able to. Now, his roster percentage is high, so maybe you can make a trade and buy low on him because he hasn't played a game this season. It really depends on the manager that has been holding him and what they feel about him. Cole Sillinger, who has had a very up and down career. He was a very exciting rookie as one of the youngest players in the league. Actually had like a 40-point season as a rookie and then kind of fell off the last 2 seasons. But, I mean, what's a video without adding a Columbus player? I feel like I always talk about them, but there's just so much open space in the lineup for people to come in and make an impact in the short term. And for right now with Sillinger, it looks like he's skating on the top line, on the top power play unit, playing good minutes. He's been strong to start the season with 8 points through 11 games. So I think he's going to be an ad right now in 14+ team leagues. And if he continues to get good reps and put up good shot volume like I like to see in players, he may be a 12-team ad very soon, but something to keep in mind right now for Sillinger. Uvis Bolinskis, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. You guys are always the ones to comment on my pronunciations here. This is a tough one, though. This is a tough one. Give me a break. Looks like he has taken over the power play 1 role. Like, they just don't want Aaron Ekblad there. It's crazy to me. But it looks like he's going to be pair 3 power play 1 here. The minutes and peripherals aren't really exciting right now. So I think he's going to be an add in 14-16 team leagues. I don't have a whole lot of interest. Another update here on this Florida top power play unit. So Bennett and Lundell have been demoted down to the power play 2. I would say there may be like a minute and 15 to a 45-second like power play 1, power play 2 share here, because their power play 2 has been good and the players on their power play 2 have been good all season so far. But with Barkov and Kachuk back in the lineup, they're healthy. They're back on the top power play unit, pretty much the same unit we saw last season minus Montour. So Bennett and Lundell, maybe a good time to sell high on both of those players. Lastly, Rickard Rakell, I talked about in my must-add video. It looks like with the injury to Brian Rust, Rakell is now going to be on the top line and the top power play unit. I have a lot of interest in him in 12+ team leagues. I've added him recently in a couple of leagues. The shot and hit volume mix together for Rickard Rakell has been very promising as a fantasy owner. Now, if you get the upside with him skating with Crosby and on the top power play unit, he should be a very strong forward in the short term and definitely a guy you want to be rostering. Moving on to players that are in, I would say, breakout watch, just guys that have been performing very well over the last little bit. I had a comment talking about Connor McMichael, so shout out to the commenter there. He has been very good. 10 games played, 7 goals, 12 points. He had that crazy, I thought it was an outlier game, 10 shots on goal, followed it up with another 5. He's been scoring, I think he has 4 in his last 5 games, with 31 shots on goal, averaging 16.25 average time on ice. They've been kind of shifting their power play all over the place right now, and it looks like as of last game, he was skating on the top power play unit. He's currently on the second line as well, and he does have center left wing eligibility on Yahoo, so a lot of excitement here from McMichael, who's under 30% rostered right now. It was a miss on me for not adding him in the must-add video, but hopefully you got to this point in this video, and you're able to add Connor McMichael at a relatively low ownership for being an over point per game player in the short term here. With Matt Duchene, I want to talk about the Stars a little bit here, so hang on. The biggest thing we're seeing with the Stars, and I've been talking with people in the Discord and talking with some of the FP guys, I just think they're too deep of a team to have these top line players really break out. Like, we've seen the struggles with Heiskanen, we've seen the struggles with Johnston, with Robertson. I just think their lineup's way too deep, or they can be giving these second, third line guys 17 minutes a night and they're going to produce at the rates they are. And Duchene has been one of these guys who, you know, came into the season as maybe a second or third line player, has been over a point per game with 15 through 11 games, 6 points in the second power play unit, and 16-13 hours time on ice. It looks like they have a power play 1A, power play 1B. So, I mean, as a Dallas fan, it's good to see that the depth is scoring and that, you know, they're able to run a power play 1A and power play 1B and be successful doing so. But as an owner of Johnston and Robertson across the leagues, like, there's a little bit of concern here with how they're really relaying their lineup and having their current deployment. So just something to think about if you're a Stars fan, or if you watch some of the games, or you own some of those players. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about that. Moving on, we have Andrei Svechnikov, one of the highest shot rates per 60 in the NHL right now. I still think you can buy low on him because They've only played 9 games, whereas the Florida Panthers are already on game 14. So I still think because they haven't played the full amount of games like the other teams, they had some delays earlier in the season, you can get these guys in some pretty big discount here. So 10 points through 9 games with 36 shots, 15 hits, playing just under 18 minutes per night. The shot rate has been phenomenal. He's almost at 70 shot attempts through 9 games. So watch out for Svechnikov. This could be a 30-40 goal season right now for him with his shot rate. And this power play has been very, very strong. They lit up the Bruins 8-2 the other night too. So something to keep in mind there. Brandt Clarke, someone I shouted out in the first Everything Has Changed, the preseason one, where as soon as that Doughty injury happened, Brandt Clarke got a big bump. And good to see that he's been producing with 11 points through 12 games, 5 of those points in the power play. 27 shots, 22 blocks, and his minutes are starting to scale up very fast with 22 minutes and 6 shots in the most recent game for the LA Kings. So Brandt Clarke looks to be moving up into maybe a pair 2, potentially a pair 1 role at some point. And over 21 minutes per night with these solid peripherals, especially the blocks, I have a lot of interest in Clarke right now. Lastly, Pavel Dorofeyev, who I've been shouting out for the last couple of weeks, and hopefully you were able to scoop him up. 7 goals through 12 games right now, and he's a point per game with 6 points on the power play, 35 shots on net, and just under 16 minutes per night. But I put in the brackets there that his minutes have been scaling up as of recent, especially with the injury to Victor Olofsson that has moved Dorofeyev up to the top power play unit. This Vegas team seems to be scoring at will right now. They're a very good offensive team, and Dorofeyev has been a big benefactor of that, and he's been a big contributor of that as well. The shot rate's positive, the goal rate's positive, and the concurrent deployment's positive. So this could be a potential breakout season for Dorofeyev. It seems like they really like him in Vegas. So something to keep an eye on. He's still really low rostered, so you're likely able to scoop him on your free agency for a ton of upside in the short term. I just want to clap. I don't know how loud it's going to be for the microphone. Man, Lukas Dostal has been a different breed in the NHL so far this season. I would say he's, well, based on rankings, he's currently the #1 goalie in fantasy, and I think he could be right now the best goalie in the NHL. This is amazing to see. Now, we got to talk about what happens when John Gibson comes back, and I would love to hear what everyone's opinions are in the comments. Let me know. I think Dostal still has the crease. Maybe it's a 60-40 split. Like, they gotta ease Gibson in, so maybe you get another 15-20 good starts out of Dostal until Gibson starts to split the net with him. But he's been carrying this team. Like, I feel like every single night we see 42 saves and a 3-1 loss. Like, it's crazy right now. I'm so happy I've rostered him in 4 of my 6 leagues. I was really high on him. I drafted him last overall in the FPPL, and he's been so good for me. There is some concern with Gibson returning. I just really hope Dostal owns this net. Maybe they ship Gibson off. We'll see. And I know that Dostal looks to be starting tonight as I'm recording this video on Sunday, and you guys know me with predicting this. I'm going to say 4 goals against on 30 shots, and the value is going to go down a little bit, but I have high hopes for this guy. Now, Stuart Skinner, some of these big goalies have been a mess so far this season. I don't want to talk about Georgiev anymore. It's been one of the biggest busts in fantasy, and Skinner's pretty close to that too, with an .872 save percentage and a .351 goals against average. I would continue to hold. I don't own him in any of my leagues, but I would continue to hold Skinner. This is exactly what happened in 2023, where this entire team was not playing good, and they're not playing good right now, and the McDavid injury doesn't help at all, but I would still be holding Skinner, even though Picard has been pretty good as of recent. Skinner's their guy, and they know that, and he was their guy last year. He brought them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So with Skinner here, if you're an owner, hold him, maybe start him in easier matchups, maybe home matchups only in the short term, especially if you're in category leagues. If you're in points leagues, you need the starts, you need the volume, so you might have to be starting him whenever you can. Now, another big goalie that's been struggling quite a bit this season is Jeremy Swayman with a .357 goals against average and an .884 save percentage on a Boston team that was first for save percentage and goals against average in 22, and then third for save percentage and goals against average in 23. And now things aren't looking too good. Korpisalo just had a shutout on the road against Philly. I just think with Swayman, there's going to be a little bit of lag time for him early in the season because he wasn't signed into opening night. And that was my initial comments about the Korpisalo stuff, is that there may be some lag time with Swayman. He may not be fully ready to go once he signs. But for right now, I don't think I have any interest in Korpisalo. But if you're a Jeremy Swayman owner, just continue to hold. Don't try and trade him. Don't panic. Keep him on your roster, and he will figure it out at some point. So I talked about the Freddie Anderson stuff and the benefit to Peter Kochetkov. With Freddie out week to week, I do think Kochetkov becomes a top 7 goalie in fantasy because of how good the Carolina Hurricanes team is defensively, offensively. They should be a team that will win a ton of games this season. They are likely top 5 at the end of the season. They're always top 3 in their Corsi against, in their scoring chances against. They just don't give up a lot, and they produce a lot of offense. So as long as Freddie remains out, Kochetkov becomes a priority goalie for me in fantasy. I still think you can buy low on him, so I have a lot of interest there. Now, this is the breakdown of the goalies, one of the hardest positions in fantasy. I don't like really making hot takes on goalies so much, but still, these are some of the goalies that have had some recent updates to their news and what I think you should be doing with some of them. That will do it for the Everything Has Changed for week 4 of fantasy hockey. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.